All right, write a polynomial function of least degree with integral coefficients, meaning integer coefficients. This sounds very complex, but it's very simple. So here are all of our x values right here. Let me go ahead and make this little. So x is equal, here are all the x values. Well, remember, what that means is x plus 2, what's the opposite of positive 2? Negative 2, so there's one of our x values. X plus 4, x minus 3, and then there must have been an x on the outside because x is equal to 0. So this is all of these are all of the factors, right? Then if you take the time to multiply each of those together, 2 at a time, you end up with a polynomial of least degree. So let's go ahead. So here we have it. I put the x on the outside. Anytime x is equal to 0, that just means there was an x on the outside of parentheses. Here's the and we're just going to multiply. I'm going to probably multiply these two first, and that's going to give me another binomial. Then I'll multiply that binomial times this one, which will give me a trinomial or so, and then we'll multiply that. So let's see. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Now I'm going to multiply x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 4 is 4x squared. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. And then I'm simply going to add those two together. So we're going to have x cubed plus 6x squared plus 8x. And then we're going to multiply those. And I think I did that down here. So now remember, we have a trinomial times a binomial. It just means 3 sets of distributive, or if I would have written it x minus 3 times x cubed blah blah blah, we would have had a double distributive, right? Over 3 terms. So I wrote it this way. So we have x cubed times x, which is x to the 4th. Let me take this right here. And then x cubed times negative 3 is negative 3x to the 3rd. Then we have, so we've taken care of those. I should do it this way. So we've taken care of the x cubes we multiplied. Then we're going to shift gears. 6x squared times x is 6x cubed. And then 6x squared times negative 3 is negative 18x squared. I've now taken care of that. Now we have 8x times x is 8x squared. 8x times negative 3 is negative 24x. And then you're just going to add like terms, which I highlighted right there. Negative 3x cubed plus positive 6x cubed leaves us with 3x cubed. Negative 18x squared plus 8x squared is negative 10x squared. But this right here is the polynomial of least degree. So not too bad, but it gets a little bit harder. So notice we have 2 irrational roots, and then they give us this complex. So here's a complex root. And remember, we know that because a complex is a plus bi. I've talked about that in the previous videos. So this right here is one statement. And then here's a root, whoops, in front of the comma. Here's a root. And remember, irrational numbers come in pairs because it's always positive or negative something. And because it's complex, it will have a pair. So we need to write its conjugate. So negative 2 plus 3i. And again, we're going to write them as factors. So the opposite of positive root 2, we have x subtract root 2 in a set of parentheses. And then we have x plus root 2. And then we're going to have x subtract all of this stuff. And I really should have, so this is where it gets a little bit tricky when there's a bunch of negatives. So I think what it should have been, this should be a plus right there. And trying to think if that's, no, I'm still going to leave it like that. Notice what I changed was there was the conjugate right there. All right, so now I'm going to multiply these conjugates together. And remember, the beauty of conjugates is you multiply the first times the first, gives us x squared, and then you multiply the second times the second. And you always, a negative times a positive is a negative. And then root 2 times root 2 is 2. And then this one ends up being a little bit more complex. And so we'll work that out in class. But those of you just watching the video that aren't in my class, so simplify things first. So let's go ahead and do that. So the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. So inside here, this becomes x plus 2. And then negative times a negative is a positive. So that's plus 3i. And then this is x plus 2 minus 3i. And then you're going to multiply all of those things out. And then this is what it's going to simplify to. X, because remember, when you deal with imaginary numbers, the complex pieces cancel out. And this is what we're left with. You multiply, do the double distributive here, x squared times x squared times 7. Negative 2 times x squared, negative 2 times 7. Here you have like terms. You add those together, and this is the final result. All right, and we'll practice this piece more in class because I know that's going to be confusing, and I did not want to have a 15-minute video. But that's the process of finding polynomials with least degree. All right, that's it.